Thank you. Right, well, good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk you through some of the fellowship funding opportunities that are available through the NIHR or the NIHR Academy. And hopefully the idea is to share some information that will help you to navigate the different awards that we offer, because there are a great many. It may also be helpful to those of you that are looking to support others in identifying the awards that will suit other people, perhaps people that you lead and line manage. So just really quickly, as a bit of background, you may already all know this, but the NIHR is the nation's largest funder of health and care research, investing £1 billion per annum into research. And our mission statement is to improve the health and wealth of the nation through research. And we do that through a number of different mechanisms, such as direct funding of research, career funding and training, growing infrastructure, partnering with other funders and industry, as well as investing in global health research and research training. I'm just going to skip through the animation here. So as you've seen, there's lots of different aspects that comprise the whole of the NIHR. And part of what we do at the Academy is to support academic career development, so investing in people's futures as they become research leaders of tomorrow. And one way in which we do that is by offering personalised funding awards. And the personalised awards are broadly split into 3 different areas. One, quite aptly named, is personal awards, and these tend to have a broader remit and more academic focus. We usually use the tagline "Fellowships for All" for these. We've then got the Integrated Pathways programme, which includes opportunities for people that are interested in a clinical academic career, so the specific career focus around doctors, dentists, nurses, midwives, allied health professionals, and also people working in local authority settings as well. And then we also have awards aimed at people based in NIHR infrastructure, and these awards are academic career support for those individuals, then offering them the opportunity to spend time in other parts of the NIHR or to network and train in a specific skill or build collaborations with other researchers and specialists. Now, this is a 5-star slide because it shows the key awards from each of the 3 programme areas that I've just mentioned across the career pathway. We've got personal awards at the top, and then we've got the Integrated Clinical and Practitioner Academic, or ICA programme, and then the LAF programme, or the Local Authority Fellowship programme, followed by the IAT, or Integrated Academic Training programme, and then the last row is for the awards that are aimed at people based in NIHR infrastructure. And just to say, the focus today will be around fellowship opportunities that we offer. So it will basically be me talking about the top few rows. And then just a quick note on who I am and where I fit into some of the slides that we've just seen. So as has been mentioned, I'm Richard Milham, a programme manager in the Integrated Pathways team, so looking after awards from the ICA and the IAT programmes. And I have primary responsibility for the In Practice Fellowship for doctors and dentists. But I do work across all of our awards and provide support across the whole journey. So if you are one of our awardees, you may have already been in touch with me, or if you do apply to one of these awards, we may very well speak again in due course. So as you can probably imagine from the slides that we've just looked at, there's a lot of ground to cover here, and do only have 20 minutes. So while I'll provide an overview, I just want to reassure you don't need to absorb absolutely everything. Ideally, what you want to do is try to focus on the bits that are most relevant to you. So how do you know which of our awards is right for you? How do you know where to focus? So you might have started to get a bit of an idea from some of the slides that we've just seen. As I mentioned, some of the awards are aimed at people from specific professional backgrounds. But what you should also be thinking about is where you are now in your career, and then where do you want to be in the future? So what are your aspirations? And the goal is really to identify which of our awards is the best fit to help you on that journey from where you are now to where you want to be. And I will go through all of our awards in a little bit more detail, so hopefully you'll get an idea of which award is going to be the best fit for you. And then I also just wanted to mention briefly, we do offer charity partnerships for some of our awards. So keep that in mind as we look at different awards, because there's an opportunity to access joint funding but also they're a fantastic opportunity to build relationships with leading charities in your area of specialization, so really building your networks. And there may also be industry partnerships as well, so if that's of interest. So for example, we had some Pfizer partnerships in one of our recent rounds. But the availability of these does vary from one year to another, so please do check our website for information, particularly the guidance notes will say what's available in a given year. So I'm going to start with our personal awards, and as you can see, these span the career pathway from pre-doctoral level through to professorship. And the first of these awards is the pre-doctoral fellowship. And it's exactly what it sounds like. However, it is specifically for research methodologists, so learning how to select, process, and analyze data. Careers will include things like epidemiologists, statisticians, data scientists, etc. And this is a research training award rather than a research award. So it doesn't include a research project or research funding. The idea is that it's aimed at early career researchers. It's typically 1 to 2 years in duration, but there is flexibility around working less than full time, which is something the majority of our awards offer actually. And funding is to cover a package of training and development that you put together yourself, tailored to your needs, with the idea or the goal to put you in a position to make a competitive application at the doctoral level following the award. And then, as you might imagine, following on from that, we then have the doctoral fellowship, so at PhD level. This actually has a broader remit than the pre-doctoral fellowship. So not only may it follow on from a pre-doctoral fellowship, but it also fits into the pathway for other schemes as well. So for example, when I come to it later, the Academic Clinical Fellowship, or ACF, under the IAP program, you may do one of those. And then following that, you might do a doctoral fellowship under the Personal Awards program before returning to the IAP program to do a clinical lectureship, just as an example. That does, of course, mean that these are very competitive awards. Dr. Edelman will be sharing their experiences as doctoral fellow in one of the parallel sessions later, so very much encourage you to join that. And these awards, as you might imagine, at the doctoral level, typically 3 years in duration. They include a research project, and there is funding to cover associated research costs. There's also funding to cover things like PhD tuition, your salary, and it's also perhaps worth noting that at the pre-doctoral level, essentially you make an application which is assessed by an expert selection committee, and then the outcome of that assessment is whether or not you are funded. But at the doctoral level, there is an extra stage, i.e. an interview, so something to be aware of there. And then at the postdoctoral level, so perhaps following on from a doctoral fellowship, we then have the advanced fellowship, which is designed to enable you to become an independent research leader. And Dr. Donovan will be able to share some of their experiences of the advanced fellowship in one of the parallel sessions later on. So you can actually do 2 sequential advanced fellowships, and typically the first might be used to develop independence as a researcher following your PhD. And then the second might be more focused towards becoming a research leader in your space. So for example, you might be supervising a PhD at this level. I haven't really mentioned duration here. There is an allusion to it on the slide, but I think something I want to stress is there's a great deal of flexibility in terms of how these awards work in reality. And the idea is very much that in your application, you should tailor it to match your aspirations and needs, to propose what you need to take your career to the next stage. And then this is the postdoctoral level, so there are much higher expectations here. And as a result, more funding is available, but there is also an additional step to the application process in that all applications are subject to external expert peer review as part of the shortlisting process for interview. Then got the Development Skills Enhancement Award. Just very quickly on this one, it's a shorter award available to people on postdoctoral NIHR awards. And the idea here is that it allows you to develop in a specific area where you might identify a gap in your knowledge or experience, and you can use this award to help you bridge that gap to get to the next stage. And then finally, in our personal awards, we've got the professorships. There's the research professorships and the global research professorships. These are the flagship NIHR Academy Awards. And if you're on track to becoming an established research, independent research leader in your area of specialization, you might want to take up a chair, and that's what these awards are all about. They are fixed 5-year awards for outstanding academics to work at a professorial level based at a higher education institution. There is a local nomination process, which is managed by our higher education institutions. But once you're nominated, you would apply normally as you do to our other awards. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in a little bit. So moving on quickly, then we've got the Integrated Pathways Programme, which, as I mentioned earlier, is for people interested in a clinical or practitioner academic career. And that's broadly split 3 ways: for doctors and dentists, for nurses, midwives, allied health professionals, etc., and for health and care staff based in local authority settings. So the awards I've talked about so far under the Personal Awards Programme are all funded through the Department of Health and Social Care and managed through the NIHR. The Integrated Clinical and Practitioner Academic, or ICA programme, is managed by the NIHR, but it's funded through Health Education England. And it launched in 2015 and provides research training awards for registered non-medical health and social care professionals that are looking to develop clinical academic careers. When I talk about clinical here, I've also obviously mentioned the term practitioner. I'm using that very liberally. It really means the practice that you undertake in your health or care profession through which you registered. It's not necessarily a patient-facing or hospital-based role. There are some other elements to this programme that aren't listed here. There's ICA internships to offer you a taster of the research pathway if you don't have any research experience. There's a bridging scheme to help individuals build on previous academic training. And there is also a mentorship scheme, so you can access an appropriate one-to-one mentor who has perhaps walked the pathway already. Those are all managed by Health Education England, by the way, so if you want more information about those, I'd encourage you to get in touch with HEE. And just a quick note, in order to be eligible to apply for one of the ICA awards, you'll need to have a registration with a specific regulatory body. You can see a list here. And if you don't have that registration, you'll need to make sure you have that in place before you get started on your award. Another eligibility criteria just worth mentioning here perhaps is that we usually anticipate that you'll have at least 1 year's experience of practice in your health or care profession, usually by the point at which you make your application. So to jump in, we've first and foremost got the PCAF, the Predoctoral Clinical and Practitioner Academic Fellowship. You'll perhaps start to notice similarities in structure from the personal awards that we looked at earlier. So there might be a little bit of repetition, but I'll try and avoid as much as possible. But as you might imagine, this is the predoctoral award under the ICA programme, and you can use it to undertake master's level training or indeed a full master's, typically 1 to 2 years in duration, the goal being to put you in a position to make a competitive application at the doctoral level. You can see here we've also added a bridge option to the scheme, which you can apply for if you're perhaps almost at PhD level, but you've identified a small gap in your knowledge or experience rather than looking to complete comprehensive master's level training. And as you might imagine, to follow on from that, we then have the DCAF, or the Doctoral Clinical and Practitioner Academic Fellowship. This was previously known as the CDRF, or Clinical Doctoral Research Fellowship. So you might hear that term floating around still, but it's now the DCAF. And this is for those of you that might want to undertake a PhD. It includes funding to contribute towards your PhD tuition fees, salary, training and development costs, as well as funding to help cover your research costs. So very similar to the doctoral fellowship in that sense. As you might imagine, typically 3 years in duration with that flexibility around less than full-time working. And as per our other doctoral awards, there is an interview stage to the application process. And then we have the ACAF, the Advanced Clinical and Practitioner Academic Fellowship. This was actually formerly known as the CL and SL, or Clinical Lectureship and Senior Clinical Lectureship, so you can be aware in case you see those terms floating around, but is now the ACAF under a single umbrella. So similar in structure to the Advanced Fellowship in that sense, in that you can actually do 2 of these, and the first, as you might imagine from the Advanced Fellowship, is all around helping you to gain independence as a postdoctoral researcher with elements of leadership. And then the second is perhaps where you've already gained a good degree of independence and you're establishing yourself as a leader in your area of specialization. Similarly to the Advanced Fellowship, again, this is very much a flexible award in terms of you proposing what you need to help you move your career to the next stage, but funding is typically available for 2 to 5 years. And again, much higher expectations here. So you might be incorporating people you'll lead into your application. And there is, of course, that external expert peer review element to the shortlisting process for interview. So then moving on, we've got the local authority fellowship program. I'm not going to go into great detail here, as you'll see these are incredibly similar, just slightly different flavor, if you will, to the awards we've just looked at. So these, there are 2 new awards here as of 2021. They're not technically under the NIHR program, but they are managed by the same team at the moment. And these are local authority fellowships funded through Department of Health and Social Care, and they were created in recognition of the fact that in order to address the complex health and care challenges of the 21st century, then we need to develop and support future research leaders from a much broader range of settings and disciplines. The first is the PLAF. It's practically a mirror of my PCAF slide in that it's structurally very, very similar. It's just aimed at a different audience, i.e. early career researchers employed within local authorities or local authority supporting services. And as you might anticipate, following that, you've got the doctoral local authority fellowship. So for those of you that want to undertake a PhD based in the local authority fellowship, so it's, local authority setting, and it is just for those of you that are looking to develop as a practitioner or academic, combining your continued employment in a local authority setting with your health and or social care research. We've then got the IAP program, or integrated academic programs, specifically for doctors and dentists, and it's to support individuals to gain research experience as part of your clinical training, so developing as a clinical academic. And there are 3 awards under the IAP program: ACFs or academic clinical fellowships, CLs or clinical lectureships, and the IPF or in-practice fellowship. Perhaps worth mentioning here is that while you may be involved in research as part of these awards, they aren't research awards themselves. So there's no NIHR funded research component to any of these. They are training and development awards. So the ACF is a clinical specialty training post in medicine or dentistry that incorporates academic training at the pre-doctoral level. And these offer protected academic time with the goal to put you in a position to make a competitive application at the doctoral level once completed. So as I mentioned earlier, you might do a doctoral fellowship from the Personal Awards program following your ECF. We award approximately 250 ACFs every year to local, what we call IAP partnerships, and those are comprised of a medical and dental school, a health education and local office, and then partner NHS organisations within a region. And then those local partnerships recruit to and manage the programme locally. So if you are interested in these posts, very much encourage you to get in touch with your health education and local office. ACFs are typically 3 to 4 years, depending on the specialty, but NIHR funds salary costs, as well as a £1,000 bursary for conference attendance and travel. We've then got the clinical lectureship, similar in a sense to the academic clinical fellowship, but at the postdoctoral level. So CLs are also clinical specialty training posts in medicine or dentistry that incorporate academic training. So they offer you that protected academic time. And these awards are designed to help you establish yourself as an independent researcher and leader. They're a maximum of 4 years in duration, and we award approximately 100 CLs to the partnerships nationally each year. And again, recruitment is managed locally. And then finally, we've got the In-Practice Fellowship, or the IPF. This is a more general pre-doctoral level award for doctors and dentists. So very similar to the pre-doctoral fellowship in that it's a training and development award, typically 2 years in duration with flexibility around part-time working. And the idea here again is to propose that bespoke master's level training and development package, and funding can contribute towards a master's degree. Similar to the ACF, the goal is to put you in a position to make a competitive application for a PhD or a doctoral fellowship, and NIHR fund the academic component to these awards, including salary, so you've got that protected academic development time, as well as funding for master's level training and conference attendance. I also just wanted to mention that if you do get involved with one of our awards, that you become an NIHR Academy member. So there are various benefits associated with that, such as the annual Academy Members Conference, where you can meet people on the same journey as you, as well as opportunities for leadership training and mentoring. I'm very conscious of time. I've got a few tips around application process. Claire, do I have a little bit of time? Is that all right? Excellent. Thank you very much. So I'll skip through this as quickly as possible. This diagram shows you the application process for our awards. I've already alluded to a lot of this already, but essentially you would make an application via our online system, Aramis. You can register at any time with Aramis, so I'd very much encourage you to do that, familiarise yourself with the system. There's elements that you can complete at any time, including the CV section, so absolutely recommend you do that. And to, of course, bear in mind that at the doctoral level, there is an interview stage, which would typically consist of a 5-minute presentation, followed by 25 to 30 minutes of questions. And then at the postdoctoral level, there's external expert peer review as part of the shortlisting process. And then, as I mentioned previously, this doesn't apply to ACFs and CLs where there is a local process. Just to go back to this slide from earlier, this will look familiar. What I wanted to focus on here was to say, you've now had to think about which of our awards might fit into your career journey. And what you want to do with your application is to paint a picture, create a narrative in your application that shows the selection committee how the award takes your career to the next stage. So show us where you are now and where you want to be in the future, and then use the application as an opportunity to demonstrate what you need to get there, who you need to work with to get there, and tell that story to really win over the selection committee. And then just a few very quick little bits of info here. Please read the information on our website. I can't stress that enough. There's so much useful information in the guidance notes, everything you could possibly want to know, so please do look there. Don't add PPI as an afterthought. Dr. Vaughan and Katie Turner are going to talk about this later on, but do integrate it from the beginning. It's really important. You will be asked questions about it in interview, and NIHR Learning for Involvement is a fantastic resource for PPI support. Of course, I'm going to say this, but please contact the Research Design Service if you have a research component in your fellowship. They are an invaluable point of support. And to just start as early as possible. You would be so surprised how long it takes to put an application together. If you are interested, think about what you're going to need to put in your application, who needs to be involved in your application, and involve people as early as possible. And then just finally, a note to say, if at first you don't succeed, you can try again, but generally speaking, you can apply only one more time unless you were deemed fundable, but there were insufficient funds, in which case you can keep trying. But rules do vary from one scheme to another, so please do check online before applying. Thanks very much, everyone.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Richard. I'll hand over to Wendy if we have any questions.
Yes, I think all the questions in the chat have been answered already. So if anybody's got a question, put your hand up. And I've got a couple of questions, Richard. So one thing is, if somebody's completely boggled by, as I am, by the information you've just given about all the different schemes, I've been doing my RDS job for years, and I'm still completely confused by all the different acronyms and all the different levels and all the different. Who should people contact? Is there one particular? Is it just the NIHR Academy that should be the sort of central point of contact?
It's a really good question. I think if you were to just fire an email off into the ether, into NIHR, it will eventually find where it needs to go. But for the awards that I've spoken about today, I would either check our website and see if you can find contact details, because if you check the website, you'll get contact details that are normally for a specific team that looks after a specific award. So you'll get exactly where you need to go straight away. Alternatively, drop an email to academy-awards@nihr.ac.uk, and that's a joint inbox that's managed by all of us, and it will get picked up and we will be able to get in touch. But you can also pick up the phone. There's a general number on our website as well. You'll get a little menu. I shouldn't say this, but don't worry too much about which option you pick. You'll get through to someone that can help you. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, and I'd say in general, any queries that go to the sort of program managers for any funding stream are really usefully answered. People are really helpful, so people shouldn't be scared to contact the offices. I think in general you'd rather have queries at the early stage than receive something that's completely wrong, because that wastes everybody's time. Sure. Brilliant. So Vanessa's got a question. Vanessa, do you want to ask your question in person? Are you there?
Sure, I can ask it in person. I think, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. I was just asking, so you mentioned that you can only apply twice, again, if you were deemed fundable but unfunded, but not enough funding. Is that regarding the specific scheme, or is that across all schemes? So if you've been, because you're thinking about especially those early stages, and as your career develops, once if you've applied twice, or is it per scheme or in general?
No, you're absolutely right to ask. So it is per scheme. So for example, if you were to apply for a DCAF and you were unsuccessful, but that you were fundable, for example, then you could continue to apply for the DCAF. If you were unfundable, you could apply one more time to the DCAF, but you would be able to apply to any of the other awards. It wouldn't affect your applications to those.
So moving forward in the future, you would be eligible to apply for the other schemes, even though you couldn't apply for that one scheme.
Of course you would. Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's absolutely right. The other thing just to say, you may have noticed on the slide, I didn't really talk about this, but some of our awards have two, we call them rounds or competitions per year, if you will. Usually where that's the case, you can only apply once per year regardless. So it's a case of choosing when in the year is going to suit you best.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Brilliant. Any other questions? I've got a question. For the pre-doctoral fellowship, that's sort of the training fellowship for methodology, can people apply for that if they've already got a PhD but want to train in a different methodology? Is that?
I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to do that. I think the challenge there is fully justifying why you want to do that in your application and making it clear to the selection committee exactly what you're looking to do and showing them that you've built a strong network and case around you that will enable you to make that shift in career. But I don't think there's any reason to stop you doing that at all.
Brilliant. Georgia, would you like to? Sorry, George A.
Sorry, it's Abraham speaking.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's fine. So basically, I'm a medic by background, but I work in local authority public health. I've been in email conversation with NIHR and with colleagues at Center for Health Science Studies in University of Kent around the feasibility of doing a doctoral fellowship. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is I want to focus particularly on a specific area of interest, which from my experience, not many public health researchers actually focus on at the moment. And I was just wondering, how do I even get off the starting block in terms of finding a suitable person to discuss this with? And can the RDS actually help me put me in touch with a suitable person so that I can actually start thinking about the proposal development? Does that sort of make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, I won't be able to answer from the RDS perspective, but I would say from an NIHR perspective, this is perhaps a tokenistic answer, but we would just encourage you to speak with people locally, talk to supervisors, see if you can find someone to almost be a mentor to you, see if you can find someone who has any kind of academic experience. I know it's incredibly challenging because, as you say, it's sort of an untrodden path, if you will, really. But just you could talk to local HEIs, local universities, see if you can find people that are interested in a similar area that might be able to give you additional guidance.
And from an RDS perspective, we can definitely help. We may not know the particular person that you need to help you, but we can help you find that, somebody suitable. And we've got sort of obviously a network of colleagues across the country. So if there's nobody locally, we can definitely help. So I definitely get in touch.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, if possible, maybe I can just share with you some of the email trail that I've already had with NIHR and with Lindsay at CHSS, and then maybe get a further sort of advice from yourselves how to actually start how to make the inquiries, because it's so far I've been it's sort of like hit and miss, where I'm just going and just sending off emails to different people, and they're all coming back saying it sounds interesting, but that's not my area of interest. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if this is just going to carry on like this for some more time. I'm just wondering if I can be more successful, greater chance of success.
I think definitely get in touch with the RDS, and they can guide you through that. So right, your local RDS. I'll go to Ellen, who may be answering this question or maybe asking another one.
Hello, yeah, just to say, do get in contact with the RDS, because a few years ago we at Surrey supported a public health practitioner to get a doctoral fellowship. So if we can get back in contact with her, that might be a good mentor for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And Jörg.
Yeah, just to add in a way what you said already, Wendy, and what Ellen said is that maybe talk to some of the people in the ARC who are covering the public health area, and also obviously us. Yeah, I'm sure we should be able to help.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
So we've got another question from Lainey. How are applications deemed? Oh, Lainey, do you want to ask it in person? Are you there? I'll read it out. How are applications deemed fundable? Oh, you're there. Hi.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I was just wondering that pile between applications that are deemed fundable and awarded and deemed fundable but not awarded, how that decision was made, to see if it gives any of us a heads up when we're writing our application. Thank you.
A fantastic question, and no doubt Professor Huber will be talking about that in more detail later on, so I won't share all the secrets. But what I will just say is that, as you can imagine, all of our awards are funded through the public purse, so there's a limit to how many we are able to fund. And that's why we have an expert selection committee who come in and review all the applications. They then meet to come to a consensus decision about which applications are fundable or unfundable, and there are review criteria, and usually, and this is why I always say check the guidance notes, usually if you look in the guidance notes it actually tells you what the criteria are, so it really is a powerful cheat sheet, if you will, for what you should be looking at to put in your application. So then the selection committee will review your application, and they will essentially rank applications, but as I say, Professor Huber will be able to tell you more. So it may very well be that your application is incredibly competitive and is fundable, but there just isn't enough funds available. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant.
We've got another question from Fern. Fern Day, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I'm not sure how relevant it will be for everyone in the meeting, but I've looked online and I just thought this is the best opportunity to ask it. So I've got a PhD and I've been sort of working in and out of sort of therapy settings and academic settings over the years. I'm currently a cognitive behavioural therapist. So I was wondering, based on the different schemes you offer, I think the Advanced Clinical Practitioner Academic Fellowship might be the one I'd be looking for. But I just wondered, does a CBT therapist actually count as a clinician or a practitioner? Because I can't find it on any of the lists on the website.
So I suppose a general question is, yes, what if somebody's a professional that's registered, but then it's not on the list?
Yeah.
So the list has been changed from a list of eligible professions to a list of eligible bodies through which you need to be registered. So if you are eligible, you will need to be able to have a registration with one of the bodies on that list, and I think that list is on the NIHR webpage. If it's not possible for you to have a registration with one of those bodies, then it's possible that you are not eligible. However, I'd encourage you to drop us an email and get in touch, because it may be that you are eligible and there is a mechanism through which you can get involved. So yeah, if in doubt, get in touch, but otherwise you do need to have a registration with one of the ones in the list.
Okay, thank you for that. And is that the email that you posted in the chat, the sort of generic inbox Academy Awards at NIHR? Yeah, okay.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the other thing to say is that there are other opportunities available. So, for example, the Advanced Fellowship is still available as well, if you felt that would be appropriate. But I can certainly understand why you would be interested in the ACAF.
Okay, thank you very much.
Brilliant. I think that's all the questions there are. How's the time, Claire?
Yep, lovely. That's fine. So I make it 10:38. So if we come back in 5 minutes at 10:43.
And continue to put any questions in the chat, because we can continue to answer them.